Welcome, everyone. The Students Against Destructive Decisions group has worked very hard to bring this week of assemblies to you. This Thursday, we will be having a panel of experts and professionals with firsthand experience working against substance use and abuse. So that'll be cool.
And today we are privileged to have Corey Palazzi and his mother, Lori Gonzalez, with us today. They volunteered their time at numerous schools and political venues in the area to share their story and provide valuable information on tragic effects substance abuse can have on all of our lives. Corey was a National Honor Society student and athlete in high school who then had an injury which in turn caused him to have to stop sports altogether. I think his story will resonate with many individuals and families in the audience. Knowing everyone is not comfortable asking questions, you should all have an exit ticket that you received walking in the door. And we're requesting that you fill out this exit ticket to assist us in providing you with the most valuable information that we can throughout this process. We will be going through these questions in the next couple of days so they can be answered appropriately for you. In addition, if you feel that you need to speak with somebody confidentially about yourself or someone else who might be in need of assistance, there is a box you can check, and if you print your name, we will be collecting these exit tickets on the way out.
Again, we can't thank them enough for taking the time out of their busy schedule in order to visit with us today. I will turn it over to Corey and his mother at this time. Thank you.
And you can sit, you can stand, whatever you want.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laurie, and I live in Taunton, which is about 40 minutes or so from here. So thank you very much for having us today. Thank you. I'm here to share our family's story. We travel around to different schools, into different groups to share our story in the hopes that maybe we can help another individual not endure what we have gone through. My son, Corey, was born in Taunton. My husband is a school teacher in the Taunton School Department, and I am an insurance agent. We had a great life. Corey was always very athletic. He played Little League, Taunton Youth Soccer, CYO basketball, everything, you name it, he played it. He played varsity baseball at Taunton High and varsity football. He had a shoulder injury going into his senior year, which required that he had some shoulder surgery. Corey became addicted to his pain meds and eventually became a heroin addict. Now you look at him and you say, how could a kid like this, a good kid with a great life, with a bright future in front of him, become addicted to heroin? If you leave here with anything today, what I would like you to remember is the disease of addiction. It does not discriminate. It knows no boundaries. This isn't something that just happens to those people over there, to other people, to people in other communities. It's a disease that right now is killing 4 people in the state of Massachusetts every day, day after day. So multiply that by the 50 states and how many people this disease is taking every single day. Corey had a normal life. He was a really good kid. And life sometimes is about decisions and choices. And you know, sometimes in life we have easy choices. What am I gonna have for lunch today? What am I gonna wear to school today? Those choices will not affect you long term. But there are other choices in your life that you make that can and will affect you long term. And I always told Corey, one poor decision can affect the rest of your life. And unfortunately, his decision to take Percocet and then Oxycontin and then heroin has affected his life. Corey now lives with an anoxic brain injury, and what that is was he overdosed on heroin. On July 15th, 2013, he was living in Falmouth in a sober house, and he relapsed. When you relapse, that means that he was doing good, he wasn't doing any drugs, but when he relapsed, he went back and used heroin. And he was at Falmouth Hospital for a couple weeks, and then in Boston for 40 days. He was on life support and in a coma. And he is permanently disabled and now legally blind because of the overdose. He went about 2.5 minutes or so without oxygen, which then, caused the brain damage. The night he overdosed was a tough night for me and his stepdad. He stood there at the hospital in the emergency room while a priest gave him the last rites. They told me that he would not live the night, but luckily he did. He's here, and we're here to tell our story. We're going to show you a video that kind of shows Corey's life and Corey's story, and that's going to play in a few minutes. And then after the video, Corey will come out and we'll speak a little bit more. So if you want to start the video.
When you're addicted, you hurt the people that you love the most.
People don't realize that an addict is the kid next door.
It doesn't stop, it just keeps mushrooming and getting worse and worse until it just spirals completely out of control.
My life sucks now.
So it was July 15th, 2013, and my cell phone rang. My name is Tom. I live with Corey in the sober house, and he said, I'm sorry to tell you that he relapsed.
The neurologist came in there
yeah.
pretty much kind of said, well, we think now he might live, but he has extensive brain damage, and maybe his brain is only functioning at 20%.
And then they had to take him off the life support. And they weren't sure whether his brain was functioning enough that he would breathe on his own. So that was kind of scary within itself, not knowing whether once they turned that machine off, whether he would breathe on his own.
I remember when I woke up at the hospital and I had a tube down my throat and it hurt and I couldn't see anything except a white sheet.
He was always very athletic from day one. He loved baseballs and footballs and basketballs. He played Taunton Little League. He made Little League when he was 9, and he played 4 years in Little League, and he made the All-Stars all 4 years of Little League. He was a really good pitcher and shortstop, really good baseball player, very talented. He was the type of kid that any sport he played, he excelled at. He played on the freshman team at Taunton High, and then when he was a sophomore, he tried out for varsity, and he made the varsity team. He also played freshman football, and as a freshman, he also played varsity. He was the kicker on the varsity team. He was a quarterback on the freshman and JV team and a kicker on the varsity team. Corey was an excellent student all through school. He was always on the honor roll from first grade through his senior year in high school. His sophomore year at Taunton High, he was inducted into the National Honor Society, which was a proud moment for me as a mom. He was always a really good student. He was always a really good kid, never had any behavior issues with him, never had a detention, never had any problems at all with him. He was always really good, never gave me a hard time. His junior year going into senior year, he hurt his shoulder, and he had to have shoulder surgery on his right arm, which was devastating to him because it dashed all his dreams of moving forward and playing baseball in college or professionally. And that is kind of that's the underlying reason for where the addiction started.
I had to get surgery going into my senior year of high school. And then When I had the surgery, I realized that I like the feeling of being on Percocets. So from there, it snowballed.
He went to UMass Dartmouth as a nursing major, and unfortunately he couldn't play any sport in college due to his shoulder injury. And that's where on campus he got a little anxious and depressed and upset of what had happened to him with his scholarships.
My dreams were to play baseball in college, and when that didn't happen, I felt depressed and anxious all the time. And I remembered that when I took the Percocets, how good they made me feel. So then I started to take Percocets every day in order to feel better.
He was going through a lot of emotional things, some depression, some anxiety, and my husband and I weren't really aware of that, only because he wasn't living at home.
I went from pills to heroin one day when I went to a friend's house, and he had heroin, and I tried it, and it was the best feeling I've ever felt.
We knew that he had a problem with prescription pills, with Percocet and Oxy, and we were trying to deal with that, but nothing prepared us for the moment that we found out he was using heroin. It was Christmas Eve, 2009. Dave pushed the door open and he was in there with a needle.
Doing heroin was me chasing that original high the whole time. Some people call it chasing the magic dragon.
If he was using every day and he was out at, his grandfather's house or out socially or working a job, nobody would ever know. Because it comes a point with heroin where they don't use to get high, they use to get by. Because if they don't use, they're gonna get sick.
To buy the drugs, I would pawn stuff from the house. I even pawned all my mother's jewelry and my grandfather's wedding ring. I used heroin to maintain my daily life.
We tried to reason with him. We tried so many different addiction centers. We just tried everything, and nothing worked. And then it just gets to a point where you have to realize this is way bigger than we are, and we just needed some professional help. There's so many resources out there for parents, but we weren't aware of any of them. And Dave and I would sit in our kitchen, like, where do we turn? What do we do? I'd never dealt with addiction before in my life. I was ashamed or embarrassed to ask anybody about it. And I don't know, I just felt like it's not out there enough. There's not resources. There's a ton of them, but how do you find out where they are and what's available to you?
A lot of them, when you send them to a short-term thing, like 7 days, 10 days, whatever it is, they're not going to get it in 7 or 10 days. And I think insurance companies kind of need to maybe rethink that about how they deal with this issue.
He has balance issues. He does have a lot of falls. If he moves too quickly or he bends over, he will fall. So he can still walk around and maneuver around and do okay, but he can't see small print, he can't read, he can't use a computer, he can't use the cell phone. I have to help him in the morning when he gets stressed. He can't button or zip. I have to help him tie his shoes. He has problems holding utensils,
Brushing his teeth.
those kind of normal everyday tasks.
He can't, cut his food, or we even have special utensils that we bought.
Yeah, he's
that have
getting better
bigger
with
handles.
those.
He's getting better with
those.
it. But it is a difficult time for him just to feed himself. You know, there are resources out there that you can use, and addiction is something that shouldn't be kept in the closet, hidden. You know, the more you talk about it and you get it out there, the better it is in the end.
Every day I want to help somebody else who might be going through the same things that I am.
As bad as it was, I'm lucky because I didn't hear the words, "We're sorry, you know, he's gone." He lived.
Talk to your family or your friends about it so that you can get the proper help.
Don't think that this could never happen to you, because it can happen to you. And if it does happen to you, don't be ashamed or embarrassed, and just hold your head up high and just get the help that you need for not only your child or whoever the addict is in your family, but for yourself. And there is help out there, and to please go and try to get it, and don't be ashamed or embarrassed.
You might think that doing drugs are going to make you cool, and all your friends might be asking you to do that and everything, and maybe you even try it once or twice and nothing happens. And you might get away with it once, twice, 100 times. But in the end, you know, something bad could certainly come of that. You know, you should stay away from them to begin with, and, you know, they can ruin your life.
Don't do any drugs because you can end up like me.
As you can see, you pretty much just watched Corey's journey, that it's been a rough road for us for the last 6 or 7 years. Our lives will never be the same because of drugs and drug addiction. Would you guys like to meet Corey? He's here. All right, I'm going to bring him out, okay?
Hi, everybody. If you had told me back when I graduated from high school that I would be here today to talk to you about drugs, I would have said that you were crazy. And first off, I would like to apologize because the video is a little bit outdated. Because as you can see, I don't have a problem eating anymore.
Let me comment on that. Corey, you know, was always very athletic, and he was about 185 pounds after this happened. You know, he wasn't working out and doing the things that he had done, and he gained weight. He was actually up to 300 pounds, but he has lost 34 pounds in the last few months, so I think he deserves a round of applause for that.
Thank you. And secondly, I said at the end of the video that my life sucks now, except that it doesn't suck because of going out and speaking to groups like you guys. So give you guys yourself a round of applause. Who in here likes to use their cell phones? Everybody's hand should be up. Who in here can't wait to get their license or already has their license? Once again, everybody's hand should be up. Also, who likes to go on Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and stuff? I'm surprised that I didn't say MySpace. Because that was when friends with Tom.
That's what was big when you were in high school, right? MySpace?
Yes. And Tom was the name of your first friend. because I can never do any of those things again. So please listen to what we have to say today.
As you saw in the video, Corey is now legally blind. He suffers from what's called cortical blindness. There's absolutely nothing wrong with his eye or the optic nerve. It's just that his brain and his eyes are not connecting, which causes him to be able to see the big picture, but he can't see little things. And what he can see big is a little bit blurry, but so he can't read, he can't, and what's the biggest thing that you miss?
Driving so that I can get away from her and my stepfather.
What? Thanks a lot. No, I mean, let's
I'm just kidding. I love you.
I know you do. But let's face it, he just turned 28 years old, and he doesn't live the life of a normal 28-year-old. He's home, lives with his parents, his friends now. Some of them are getting married. They've bought homes or condos. They're working full-time jobs. Their lives are going forward. And Corey lives at home with me and his stepdad.
It isn't all that bad.
No, he's got a pretty good life. But first, what I wanted to talk to everyone about was where Corey's addiction started. Corey had shoulder surgery, and he was prescribed Percocet. He took those Percocet. He came home, I think, with 120 of them. And then I think he refilled it. As a parent, I guess, not knowing what I know today, I wish that I had asked a little bit more questions from the doctor. But what happened was Corey went off to college, and when he was in high school, he was at Taunton High. He had a pro scout that came to Taunton High from the Seattle Mariners to scout him. And although it was a long way away from being a Major League Baseball player, everybody's Major League career needs to start somewhere. So once his shoulder injury came about, his scholarship offers went away, the pro scouts went away. Everything that he had planned and hoped for kind of, went away. So he went away to college, not playing any sports. And he was really upset when he was on campus about not being able to play a sport. So he remembered that when he took the Percocet, that they not only made his shoulder feel good, but they made him feel good emotionally. They made him feel happy. He didn't worry about anything. He didn't care about anything. And it made that emotional pain go away. So being on campus, he was depressed and anxious. So he, rather than doing things the correct way and going to see someone and speaking to someone professionally and maybe getting prescribed some pills, he didn't want to do that. I guess he felt embarrassed, and he figured that he could just take care of it himself. So he self-medicated himself by purchasing Percocet on campus. Those Percocet eventually went to OxyContin, which eventually went to heroin because of the cost of it. And what I want to tell you is Corey thought that taking that pill would help him. Taking that pill became the biggest problem he could have ever possibly faced in his life. It didn't fix his problem. It became his biggest problem. And just all of you out there, I just want you to know that, if you're dealing with things, if you're upset about things, if something's bothering you, a drink of alcohol or a pill is not going to solve your problem. It will just become the biggest problem that you could ever face. So if you're dealing with things emotionally and you're not really sure what to do, just speak to someone. Get help. Don't take the road that Corey took. I mean, you look at Corey and you say, he was a good kid. He was a great athlete. He, had his whole life in front of him. He was a nursing major. How could something like this happen to him? It's not all about partying and having a good time. Addiction doesn't always creep into your world that way. Sometimes, like in Corey's case, he was prescribed the medication, and his body and his mind loved it, and he became, dependent on it and addicted to it at that point. But, some people think, well, when you become addicted, that you're out partying and having a good time. It doesn't always work that way. I met a mom at a workshop that I went to in Chicago, who her son was a high school senior, and he was having a problem sleeping. He didn't tell his parents, but apparently he was having a problem sleeping. So he went into the medicine cabinet, and his dad had had surgery and had a prescription of Vicodin that his dad didn't take. It was sitting in the medicine cabinet. So he's looking around, what can I take to help me sleep? He saw the Vicodin. He took the Vicodin, slept like a baby, felt great, was thrilled. Oh, this worked. And he took one every night for the next 120 nights. His mom found him dead in his bedroom 6 months later with a needle in his arm from a heroin overdose. He passed away. I'm telling you this because it can just happen in your world. It isn't always intended. It's not all about, oh, I just want to get high, I want to party and have a good time. This disease can come into your world at any time when you least expect it. It happens to good people from good homes. It's not just people from, bad communities or homeless people. A heroin addict, we are the face of the family of today's addicted person. There's, they're good kids from good homes or just good people from good homes. And the heroin addiction is killing, and drug addiction is killing more teenagers in this country right now than auto accidents. It has moved into the #1 spot of teenage deaths. So I just want to, let you know to just please be aware that this can happen. So, even if you just say, oh, I want to try this once or twice, please don't ever take a pill, especially don't take a pill that you don't know what it is that you're taking. And, the other thing that I like to stress is that when Corey went to the doctor, I wish that I had asked more questions. I guess it wasn't out there as much back then, so I figured, well, the doctor prescribed this, so it's okay. Please ask questions when you go to the doctor. Ask, is this pill addicting? What are the side effects? And maybe ask, is there any alternate pain management that I can follow? Is there anything else that I can take that will not be addicting? And hopefully we can help, stop some of this addiction that's happening to not only young people, but to old people. So, please remember that, to please ask questions and, please, be careful of what you put in your mouth. Corey, do you want to talk about what we've been doing lately?
Sure. We met with Congressman Joe Kennedy, and then he went to Washington, D.C., and then he introduced a bill on the floor of the Congress. It mentioned my name. And then we've also met with the District Attorney General Maura Healey to talk about this issue. Except that the best thing that has happened to me since this has happened last October in Washington, D.C., because we went to this thing called the Face to Unite rally, which is about stopping drug addiction in its tracks and stuff. And while we were on this walk to the White House, I was sitting in my wheelchair out in front of the White House, and these two women came up to me, and then they asked me what my story was. So I told them how I go out and I speak to kids at schools and stuff. So then they said, well, give us your number so we'll keep in contact with you. So later on that night, they called my mother and they said, hey, we're friends with Steven Tyler. Does everybody in here know who Steven Tyler is? If not, he is the old guy that used to be a judge on American Idol. The guy with the really small lips. Well, then the next day at this concert that they had, I got to go backstage and meet Steven Tyler. And he got up on my lap and gave me a big fat kiss. Yes, be jealous, ladies. Also, I got to meet Dr. Oz, and I also got to meet Darryl Strawberry, who used to be a baseball player with the New York Mets and the Yankees. Boo. And also, I got to meet Chris Herron, who is also a recovering heroin addict from the city of Fall River, and he used to be a Celtic. So that was one of my best days of my new life.
Corey's story is kind of unique in the fact that if you hear a lot on the news about the epidemic that we're dealing with right now, people are either actively using or they're in recovery, or unfortunately they've died from an overdose. There's not a lot of people like Corey that are living with brain damage and that are here to tell their story. So we've got some media attention. Corey did an episode of HBO Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. So if anyone wants to look for that later on the internet, you can probably see that. And
It is called Hooked.
yeah, the episode is called Hooked, Real Sports.
Because I have a better memory than her and my stepfather put together.
He does. He does. So, we've done some stuff on the news. We've done some, television. We're doing this not because we want to be on TV, but because we want to try to make a difference. We want to share our story in the hopes that maybe we can help someone else. This epidemic is just ripping through this, not only this state, but this country right now. I know this is a sensitive subject, and I just, wanted everyone out there to know that if you or someone that you care about or someone you know is dealing with this, please reach out to a trustworthy adult, whether it's someone in this building, a adjustment counselor, a teacher, or a family member or a friend. And I always tell people that Corey's was living at college when a lot of this was going on, and I wish that one of his roommates had told me that there was a problem. Maybe we could have, I don't blame them by any means, but maybe we could have stopped this a little bit sooner if we knew about it. So I know that you might have friends and they may be dealing with some substance abuse issues, or someone that please, there's no other way for me to say it, but tell on them. You need to tell someone. You don't want to sit there and say, well, then they're not going to talk to me anymore and everybody's going to call me a snitch or whatever. But let me tell you what, it's better to have them a little bit mad at you than to go to their funeral, because that can happen. Because like I said, this disease is killing, more young people than auto accidents, and 4 people a day are dying in this state. So, please reach out to get help to anyone. There's no reason to be ashamed or embarrassed. And, we hope that at least, one of you can leave here today, or many of you, we hope many of you do, but at least leave here today saying, you know what, I'm going to remember Corey when the opportunity presents itself, that, I could try a drug, that maybe I'll remember Corey and I'll say no to that drug. And we certainly hope that you do, because we're hoping that we can touch other people's lives. We're trying to take a negative that happened in our life and make it a positive.
Adversity to advocacy is what we always say.
Yep, we're trying to, this helps us heal as a family also. My husband usually is with us today, but he couldn't make it today. So, I hope that we've all in some way, impacted some lives out there. And, please, like I said in the video, don't be ashamed or embarrassed to ask for help. Please ask for help. If you know someone else that needs help, there's so many resources and different places that you can go for help, or just reach out to someone here at the school. Part of the, I don't know if a lot of you have seen commercials on TV, part of Governor Baker's plan in the state was to bring this issue to the forefront, and there's a lot of advertisement out there that says state without stigma. We're trying to remove in people's mind their idea of what they think an addict is. And I actually wrote something that I would like to read to you. Because, people would say, oh, Corey doesn't look like an addict. Well, I think in our mind, we all perceived what we thought a drug addict would look like. But addicts people that are addicted come from all walks of life, all different families, different communities. And, we've dealt with people thinking an addict is a bad person and the shame that goes with it. And we're trying to remove that stigma that goes with the disease. So this is something that I wrote. Addict is one of those words that so many people use. We take for granted that it's totally okay to describe another human being with one word, to call them an addict, a word with overwhelmingly negative connotations to many people. We don't describe other people by saying, my mother, the blind person, my sister, the epileptic, my brother, the bipolar, my best friend, the overweight one. But why do we think it's okay to call someone an addict? That person over there is an addict. We need to remember that they are a person and that their challenge of their addiction is only one part of their existence. Why as a society can't we be more sensitive to people struggling with drugs? My son Corey is a heroin addict, but he is also smart, funny, athletic, outgoing, funny, friendly, talkative, and a man who loves his family and the Patriots and the Red Sox and the Celtics. We cannot label a human being as one word. We want to bring more awareness that the addicted person is the kid next door, the person you work with, the person that sits next to you in the movies, your attorney, your doctor, or your friend. Thank you for allowing us to share Corey's story. Does anyone have any questions? It's really hard for me to see because these lights are really bright. Okay. What caused his shoulder injury? You want to answer that?
I was way too stubborn and I would never come out of a game, like if my arm hurt or anything. And then I tore my labrum pitching against New Bedford High my junior year.
Yeah, he just, wouldn't come out of a game. He just kind of overworked his arm too much. Any other questions? Do we think that drug prescribing should be more regulated or banned? Yes, actually that's part of Governor Baker's bill that just passed. If you have surgery or any kind of procedure and it's a new prescription that's written, the prescription is only written for a certain amount of time. I believe it's 7 days. If you take that prescription, and you can go back and get more, I believe, if you need it. But what they're trying to do is stop people from going home initially with all those pills, not giving them enough supply to be on them for long enough a time where they become, dependent or addicted to them. The other upside to that is the case of the boy that I told you that took his dad's pills, that were getting these pills out of medicine cabinets and out of homes and, keeping them away from people that will take them the wrong way. So there has been some steps taken in that, and we're really happy about that. Corey and I actually went to the State House in Boston when Governor Baker proposed that bill, and we testified for that bill. So.
And we went right after Mayor Marty Walsh and Governor Baker went. And then I told Mayor Marty Walsh that he should be a Boston accent coach?
So, we're kind of proud, hoping that maybe because we testified in, part of that bill passed, that maybe we had a little bit of a say in that. The committee was really touched by Corey and Corey's story because he was there to tell his story. There were some parents that were there that had lost their child. And although that was sad and impactful, it didn't have the same impact that Corey did because he was there for them to see and to talk to. Was there a question down here somewhere, I thought? No? Right here?
That is a great question. And what I would say to that is that I wouldn't take it back because then I wouldn't be here today to help you guys.
We've struggled with that a little bit, but, we just decided we can't look back. We can only look forward. And when this first happened, we didn't really understand it, but we do now. And we really think that this was the path that Corey was supposed to take. Because, that night the doctors told us that he wasn't going to live. And, when he left that hospital, they couldn't believe that he was still alive. And they told us 99 out of 100 people probably would have died that night. So we feel like that this is the path he was supposed to take. This is what was supposed to happen to him. And now it's his job his life was spared, and now it's his job to go out and share his story and his journey in the hopes that we can help other people. Don't you guys think that he talks really good, though, now for his brain injury? He's doing really, really well. Been through almost 3 years of speech and occupational therapy and physical therapy. And when this first happened, he couldn't even put a sentence together. It took a long time. He had to learn to talk all over again. He had to learn to swallow all over again. He had a feeding tube. The doctors have done an amazing job with him. And sometimes now his memory is awesome. His memory is better than me and my husband's, but sometimes he has a problem with word retrieval. He'll start a sentence and he can't think of the word that he wants to say. But other than that, cognitively, he's fine. He's great. And it's awesome that he's here to share his story, I think. But I'm his mom, so of course I'm going to think that. Any other questions right here?
Yes, actually, I've been taking courses through the Hadley School for the Blind. So I intend to go on and get my degree in psychology and maybe work as some sort of drug abuse counselor.
Any other questions right here?
Did you see me walk out here?
The question was, does he still play any sports? He doesn't really have the motor skills to do that anymore. He did try to play baseball in my brother's backyard, and when he swung the bat, he fell, right? But
Yes, except that I did hit 2 home runs.
yeah, he still got it a little bit. But he has 2 braces on his legs. Maybe you didn't notice them, but you walk with your feet flat on the floor. From his brain injury, it's not connecting with his feet, so sometimes he walks on the side of his foot, which is awful painful to see, to watch him do. So he has braces that keep his foot and his ankle in place so that he can walk, and his fingers are all kind of scrunched up. That's why he can't hold a pen. And I always tell people, we spoke at a high school a couple weeks ago, and it was on a Friday, and the whole baseball team had their baseball jerseys on. And I said, when Corey was in high school, he could throw a pitch and hit an exact spot, in the catcher's mitt. he was so precise at pitching, and now he can't even hold a baseball in his hand. So that's what can happen to you, if you use drugs and you go too far like Corey did. And he thought he was invincible. He thought this would never happen to him. It does happen. This is real. This is real life. We're here, and luckily he's here to tell his story. But he wishes he could play sports. I miss him playing sports too.
Yes, I do too. Except that I was hoping that I might have heard my name called last weekend at the draft. Maybe a new defensive tackle or something.
Any other questions?
Did you ever try any drugs before your injury?
Yes, I had smoked marijuana once or twice before. That is about it.
They believe in one day at a time. Each day can be a struggle. Is it still a struggle for you? Do you subscribe to that notion?
It was that way for about the first year and a half because I still dreamed about it every single night. And then when I used to wake up, I used to tell my mother, like, why in the hell? Sorry. Why did I even live and stuff like that? Because I can still dream about it all the time and stuff. Except for like the past year or so, I haven't had any dreams about it and stuff. So what I would say is, yes, about living one day at a time, especially at the beginning.
Drug addiction, especially to an opiate, which is, like a heroin or Vicodin or Oxycontin, changes your brain chemistry, and your body absolutely, and your brain absolutely love being on those medications, and it's such a hard thing to stop doing. That's why this epidemic is where it is, because it's so hard for people to stop. And that one day at a time is how a lot of people that are living in recovery do live. They live one day at a time. Let me make it through today without any drugs, and hopefully tomorrow will be just as good. Part of Corey's issue is he doesn't really have the capacity to use drugs because he doesn't have the motor skills to prepare it, which kind of helps too in his everyday battle. He knows that he shouldn't do it. He doesn't want to do it. But no matter how much drugs have taken from him and changed his life, sometimes when he goes to bed at night, he still dreams that he's out in his car driving around looking for it. That's just how powerful it is.
Because because Corey's story is so motivational, and you guys even said that that drugs overtake the #1 spot in deaths, and it overcomes car accidents. Do you guys just do your stories in the U.S. or do you want to take it worldwide?
We would speak anywhere where anyone wanted to have us. Right now, we haven't spoken outside the state of Massachusetts. We've done CBS Evening News, which is shown, nationwide. We've done some newspaper articles that have gone nationwide. But other than Springfield and Martha's Vineyard are probably the furthest that we've gone. We would love to be able to, travel around more and tell his story more. The problem is that I still work a full-time job and I take care of him full-time. So in these speaking engagements that we do, we don't charge. So, it would be very trying for us to have to travel around the country. I'd probably have to quit my job and make that my full-time job. But I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Because I think that, or I hope that we're making a difference in somebody's life.
And because this is like a healing process to us as a family.
Yeah, we're not only helping you, but we're helping ourselves deal with, what we've gone through. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Have I met people or has he met people? Yes. Well, Corey he attended, Narcotics Anonymous meetings, which were other people that are dealing with what he's dealing with. When he lived in what's called a sober house is where you live with other people that are also trying to, do the right thing and stay off drugs. So there was always a lot of support from them. My husband and I belong to a support group called Learn to Cope, which is a support group for families, mostly parents, and other loved ones dealing with addiction in their family. So, there are people out there to talk to and to get help.
So we can have one last question.
Actually, I didn't even tell them because they just sort of found out because of all my new friends and stuff like that.
You talking about telling me and his stepdad, or is just other family members, extended family? That was rough. We tried to, my husband and I, if I had to go back and do it now, I'd do it differently, but we kind of hid it within the walls of our house. We didn't really want to tell anyone. I had this great kid with all this potential that all of a sudden was shooting heroin, and I didn't know how to deal with that myself. Never mind tell somebody else. I beat myself up for a long time over the fact, did I do something wrong? Was I a bad mom? And I realized I didn't do anything wrong. His aunts and uncles, they knew something was wrong. They definitely knew something was wrong. His grandparents were the toughest. It was really difficult telling my dad that. My dad was probably his best friend. He has a great relationship with his grandfather, and that was really, really hard thing to do. But we kept it secret so long, and then once we told people about it, I felt better. I felt like we weren't keeping this big secret, and I wasn't keeping all this in. I wish we had spoken, to people about it sooner than we did. But it's tough. But we have a great family. We have great support from them, and they've been wonderful.
Thank you guys have been a great audience. And if anybody wants to come up here and say hi to me or whatever, or ask me a question, I'll feel free to come up and ask me anything.
And we have a Facebook page. It's called Corey's Cause. It's CORYS Cause. You can go on and like our page if you'd like, or if you want to send a message to Corey, if you have a question for Corey, you can certainly do that. You can also email him at coryscause@aol.com, and any questions that you have, Corey or I will certainly get back to you, but we want to thank you.
Thank you again.